Hi, welcome to another video presentation by Physician Finance Basics. Today, we're talking about the basics of credit in your family. When you are first starting out, either as a young adult or maybe as a newcomer in the US, you need to build up a credit history before anyone will give you a credit card or loan. How do you go about this? 1. You can obtain a secured credit card. This requires a cash deposit, which then becomes your credit limit. Use this card responsibly, keep utilization low, pay on time every time, use the miracle that is autopay, do not carry balances, and you will begin to accrue a credit history. From there on, build upon it. Get another card or two, and you will see your credit scores continue to go up. If you have a partner or spouse with good credit, this gets a lot simpler. You can get on one or more of their credit cards as an authorized user. First, though, please have an open discussion to make sure you see eye to eye on credit or financial behavior and share similar goals in this regard. So, an authorized user is someone who can put charges on your card but is not legally responsible for debt payment. Find out if the credit card reports AU information to the credit bureau. That is, after all, the point of the exercise. Within about 30 days, the credit card reports your info to the credit bureau, and then the card's entire history shows up in your credit file, thereby starting off your credit history. Some things to consider. Use a card with no negative information. Otherwise, that negative info will now be reflected in the AU's credit history too. As an aside, if the authorized user has any negative info in their credit history, none of it is transferred to the primary cardholder. Use a card that the primary user has had for a while. Most cards backdate the AU info all the way to when the card was first opened, thereby increasing length of credit history. Stay vigilant about card usage, otherwise both of you will damage your credit scores. Charges and payments are not separated by user, so you really are in it together. Point to note, authorized user status counts less towards your credit scores than primary cardholder status, and its relative importance in the newer FICO versions is even lower, so this is usually just a stopgap measure. Also, if you are the primary cardholder, if or when the authorized user is no longer on your card, it doesn't drop your score one bit. People often use this strategy for a spouse with low scores or no credit history, a child when she first starts out adulting, even other family members such as siblings, etc., if there is complete trust. Also, even if both spouses have fair credit, you can boost both credit files by adding the other as authorized user, thereby increasing the number of open trade lines. More side notes. Consider having a card or two on which you are the sole owner in case of unforeseen circumstances such as divorce. The stay-at-home parent can use household income, which includes a spouse's income, as stated income when applied for a credit card. And this really shouldn't need mentioning, but it is illegal to lie about income on your credit application, even though the credit card companies don't independently verify it. Moving on to building your child's credit history. The same principles can be applied if you would like to be proactive in building your child's credit history. If your child is over 18, they are allowed to have their own credit card, with you as co-signer. This does put you on the hook for all debt obligations on the card. For your teen, get a secure credit card, or add her as an authorized user on one of your cards. Again, this assumes you have stellar history on this card, since any negative information on it will taint your child's credit history and may take years to recover. Choose a card which allows minors to be added as authorized users. Check minimum age requirement, if any, and whether the card company reports authorized user information to the credit bureau. Then stay very responsible on credit behavior, because now it affects not only your own, but your kids' credit too. So when should you consider putting your child as an authorized user on your card? Some people start early. Your authorized user will accumulate credit history even if they do not use the card. In fact, if you're using the strategy for a younger child, you need not even give them their credit card. Some other people suggest that since many credit cards backdate the AU information all the way back to when the card was first opened, you can wait almost till your child starts using credit. As in most things, moderation is key. 5 to 10 years may be adequate to build up history. I recently added Thing 1 to a card. Thing 2 gets to wait until she can read and write. My card, my rules. Now we talk about how to protect your child's credit. Children make easy targets for identity thieves, since most children get an SSN soon after birth and no one is usually monitoring their credit. Unfortunately, often it's a family member or someone known to the child who steals the SSN. If you suspect ID theft in your child, like you get credit card offers or bills or collection agency notices in the mail in your child's name, the IRS notifies you that someone tried to file a return in your child's SSN. If the school has a security breach, it is recommended you check for your child's credit report. Ideally, unless you have added them on a credit card or bank account, your child doesn't even have a credit file. That in itself is protective. But then you have no way of knowing whether her identity has been stolen and her SSN is floating around in the black market. So it's a bit of a catch-22. With all the recent security breaches, it is recommended you check your child's credit and freeze it. How do you do that? To check a minor's credit report, you can't go online through annualcreditreport.com. You ask each credit bureau in writing for a manual search for the child's credit report. This makes them look for info under your child's name and SSN, as well as SSN alone, to rule out synthetic ID theft, where a stolen SSN is coupled with a fake name, address, and date of birth, and identity thieves can get a new credit card or bank account, buy your vehicle, rent an apartment, get a job, and commit all kinds of crime. There is a bit of a process to this. It will require you to provide some basic identifying information. Check for errors and fraudulent account information, stuff you don't recognize. Then put a freeze on it. A 2018 repeal of a provision in the Dodd-Frank Act makes it free in all states to request a freeze on a minor's credit. Please remember, you have to safeguard the PIN associated with the freeze for a good number of years for when you have to unfreeze her credit as a young adult. It should be one of those papers that go into your safe. Though the process is cumbersome, it shouldn't be much of an inconvenience since you rarely need to access your child's credit. If you would like to add her as an authorized user on your card, do that before you freeze her file. And last but definitely not least, educate your children early on in money matters, online security, and handling sensitive personal information. This was the basics of credit in your family. I hope you found it helpful. Thank you.